Well, Jake Berry, this is the show, and it's getting good out there with the second round of the playoffs. I'm Greg Selber, and here we go. It's the field is narrowed to about 10 teams. Now, we got a lot of questions and a lot of answers, probably more questions than that. Who's going to win rematch weekend in 5A? We don't know. Who is the only team remaining in 4A? Probably not who you thought it would be. Can Gruya make a name for itself with its first playoff win? And the march for PI begins. There's a lot of great stories to tell this week, aren't there?
There are. I like the Harlingen South Edinburgh North matchup. I love the Harlingen Sherryland matchup. But when you look at it, I'm very surprised at Rio.
Yeah, man, the last team standing, and Starr County has 2 entries. I say 3 huzzahs for Starr.
Yeah,
there's
same
Rio
school
and
district is
Gruya.
crazy.
That's good, man.
Yeah.
In fact, in sub 5As, there's only a couple left. Those 2, Port Isabel, and who else? One other, La Villa.
La Villa.
They had that bye. They're getting ready to play.
Yeah.
So these are the subtext of the games that we're going to talk about this week. Surprises last week. I didn't see many except one huge one.
Yeah. You know what? You got to give it up to Tom Chavez.
I'm telling you, man. Chavez Magic is working its way again. They've got a winnable game maybe this week. Who knows? Maybe they'll go to the 3rd round. All these neat things are happening here on the show. The playoff games are coming up. The focus telescopes down a little bit to be more specific, because a lot of the teams that lost their players and fans will show up at other people's games. I kind of love this time of year because you'll see a lot of supporters from around the valley going to see who's going to do what to whom.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we go. I understand we have some highlights.
We do.
A guy named Carlos, a professional from way back, Robledo, right? Mm-hmm. Well, let's take a look and see what we came up with, because again, now we always say this, before we look ahead, let us look backward for a moment. Carlos, take it away.
All right, guys, thanks a lot. We start with Harlingen versus McAllen Memorial. This is Brandon Garza to CJ Gallegos, the 12-yard strike there. More Garza here. Here he finds Mark Rosales, and the Cardinals roll, winning by a final score of 58-20. Harlingen South versus West Loco East. Jaden Taylor with the ball here. Nifty little move right there. Follows his blockers all the way to the end zone. 7-0 Harlingen South on top. But later, West Loco East. This is Saul Cuellar. Watch him break a couple of tackles. One there, another one right there. 52 yards on his way to the end zone. And we're all tied up at 7. But Jaden Taylor and the Harlingen South Hawks too much. 5 touchdowns for Taylor, 216 yards. Hawks win by a final score of 42-21. Port Isabel versus Raymondville, and this is Isaiah Martinez busting away, scored a touchdown there. PI wins 42-13. Mercedes versus Flower Bluff. Cody Brewer of Flower Bluff to Kevin DeWitt. Hornets win by a final score of 63-21. Donna versus Laredo United. Ricky Garza hits Anthony Gonzalez, but the night belonged to Laredo United, 56-13.
Well, the Class 5A picture, we're going to do small and big, and maybe this week I can get actually the numbers right. Last time I was telling you Donna was in 2, they were in 1. That's okay. Everybody makes a turnover occasionally. We're still going to win this game. Now, there are 2 huge games coming up. We've already alluded to them. There are 2 other 5A teams that might be underdogs. So let's take ththese 5A games and see what's what.
Yeah. And, it was a status quo for most teams. I mean, you knew who was going to win, and they did.
I think so.
I was a little surprised. Edinburgh North, their game was a little bit closer, I thought.
Yeah, it sure was. There's a lot of things going on there. Eagle Pass played pretty well, from what I understand. North did not. North is going to be without the services of David Unsaldua, and that is a big deal. The other thing is they did get their injured players back, and they were able to run the ball. Now, North will take on Harlingen South. That game will be Friday. It is Division II, right? Class 5A. I'll make sure I get the numbers right. It's a fine ball game. It's North and South. It's almost like John Jakes' novel. Remember that? Or the series North and South?
Yeah, I watched it on TV.
Did you really?
Yeah.
You're older than I thought. So Harlingen South comes in on a high. They beat East pretty good, 42-21. Like you said, North struggled against Eagle Pass. What does that mean for them going forward now to meet South?
Well, here's the one thing. If you're Edinburgh North, you know who you have to stop. There's one guy who had 5 TDs, Jaden Taylor. 216
yards he had. They rode that horse big time. But Montemayor had a really efficient game, 7 out of 10, and he rushed for 81, which answers our question. He can run some.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, 81, you'll take 81 any day. What are the things? What does North have to do to stop Jaden Taylor in that offense?
Well, look, I think they're going to have to score. and they're going to have to do it, the unconventional way for them, which is passing the ball.
Yeah.
But I think that their defense is good, real
Sure.
good defense. I mean, for a while this year, everybody had, we had Harlingen South and Edinburgh North right next to each
Yeah,
other.
it's only in the rankings, totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, okay.
We're going to get to see it
And
now.
the reason we did that is because they were such dominant teams early on. They've each got one loss, right? Sharyland beat Edinburgh North. Why? Because North defense got tired out. It was on the field too long. Harlingen South lost to Harlingen because they had 5 turnovers. But those two teams are just about as good, if not as good, as the two teams we're going to talk about in a minute. I think Edinburgh North has to do this. Yeah, you say they got to get a creditable quarterback play. They don't have to have a 300-yard game passing, but they started the Eagle Pass game. Alex Guerrero had a 39-yard touchdown to Matt Ramirez. You remember that name because he's a very important game breaker and back playing offense, by the way. Guerrero later ran for a 20-yard touchdown. So what they just have to do is get decent quarterback play because they got the running backs. It's going to be a little tricky minus their big offensive tackle. The defense will probably win the game for North if it wins, I feel, because it's just that good.
Yeah, it's going to have to. And I think the deciding factor in this whole thing is going to be Sean Montemayor, because that's something Edinburgh North doesn't have as an experienced quarterback that can throw the ball.
Right, so if you're saying who has the edge, if you're going down the checks in the book, yeah, okay, I suppose that they do have the edge at quarterback, because Sean's a 3-year starter. The Edinburgh North, does it have an edge that you can think of? Do you think its defense is better than Sal's, or it's negligible?
I think its
It is.
linebackers are better than Harlingen South. But I think what you're going to see is they're going to have to match up with, say, somebody like Nick Garcia. That they may move around, they might move him into the slot, where you're going to see.
Oh, he moves around a ton.
So
Hand in the ball and the jet sweep, man.
Yeah, so you're going to see him all over the field. I think what you're going to see is that Coach Wilson is going to put him in many different places. I mean, could you imagine them putting Jaden Taylor back into the slot too, and then
And having Nick throw to him.
Yeah.
Right, the double pass, like Economidis pulled off. Well, here's the thing I think. If there's a defense that you want to play a fine offensive team, it is the North defense, okay? Because that front seven is big, fast, and physical, and those guys in the back cover. They've got all 3 guys who were out back for this week. Joey Benitez made 2 interceptions against Eagle Pass. I think he's got 9 for the year. In other words, they're going to be able to cover, I think, relatively well.
I think so.
But Preciado is huge, and Nick is an amazing player. So, again, I think the game comes down to this. The North playing at home, I still feel is a slight underdog because without an all-valley tackle who's going to go to either UTEP or Houston, that's just a debit. You can't get around that. But see, here's the thing. Keep in mind about North, guy. They're an old-fashioned team. They're not as flashy. Harlingen, Sharyland, and South, they're very much spread teams, flashy, a lot of playmakers. North is one of them old-fashioned gut teams that bring their lunch bucket and just pound on you. So if they can manage a reasonable effort on offense, I feel like they have a decent chance to win. I'd say they're a field goal underdog at home.
I think that's about right. I mean, I would say about 3, 4.5 if I had a spread.
What a great game, though. That's going to be fun, man. And they played last year. That's why it's rematch weekend, because last year in the rain it was 14-3. That was North style of game. Rainy, just come and hit people. You don't have to worry about all the fancy schmancy stuff. South is going to probably play on a dry field with some amazing, intimidating weapons. It's going to be an amazing game.
Yeah, I think so too. And you know what? I want to see the Whitesides versus Jaden Taylor kind of matchup.
And don't forget, Adrian Alvarez came back. He had 111 yards last week. That gives North more options. Okay, if you can load up on Whitesides, then that's that's not so great. Now that Adrian is back, he scored it. No, he didn't score a touchdown. Whitesides did. It's going to be something, man. North could have closed that game out a little sooner. They drove down and missed a field goal, and they had a turnover. They've got to play better than they did against Eagle Pass. If not, they will get beat by South.
Yeah, I think so too.
Now, what about the next game? The game of the year.
Oh, yeah.
We found out where Harlingen and Sharyland are playing. It's at Ben Bolt, Palito Blanco on Sunday night. No, I'm kidding. Where are they playing?
Since we got it wrong last week. That was my fault.
Yeah. One turnover, one for me.
They're at Bogus at 7 o'clock on Friday. And it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. Look, I think what we're going to see is we're going to see a ton of points. And I think we saw it the other night. Sharyland can put up some points. They started out a little
44
slow.
a game.
Yeah, they started a little bit slow, and then started putting some points up against
South
United
defense
South.
was decent, like we said. They got Sharyland got 315, which is about 100 and something below, but they did fine. From what I understand, they had a bunch of guys back. Instead, it's the opposite of stacking the box. They stacked the secondary. So you have to throw short, and sometimes you can't do what you want to do. That's okay. They made it through. Harlingen made it through in pretty good fashion. This, of course, is the rematch of last year's 42-2 win by Sharyland. Now, let me start with this. I believe that if there's any team that you don't want to give a revenge motive to, it's the Harlingen Cardinals. That's a very tribal group, man. Okay, they like the Pashtun in Afghanistan. They never forget, never. So that's factor number one. factor number 2, with the injury to Diego Chrysler, the good Sharyland quarterback, that puts Lance Madden in, so Sharyland is so lucky and good. But it's also unlucky because then it limits the amount of options you have. So, Lance is a great receiver. He's a playmaker. So those two things right off the bat stand out to me. And also the fact that Harlingen is playing at home. They were high as a kite after beating Memorial. I really feel like they have a good chance to advance. Now, let's turn the tables and talk about the positives of Sharyland because they are 11-0. People are going to talk about Harlingen this. Sharyland's undefeated for a reason.
Yeah, and they have a ton of playmakers at wide receiver. They can run the ball with multiple guys.
Yeah.
And I think what you forget is that their defense. I mean,
we
if you
underrated
remember-
them. Look what they did
yeah,
at North.
Yeah, against Edinburgh North, they came in there with a chip on their shoulder. I remember Coach Tom Lee was talking to them after the game. Basically,
Tommy Lee.
he wanted them to come out, and I think their whole defensive squad. I just remember his speech to them was basically, everybody kind of thought that Edinburgh North was the best D, and they came in there with something to
They
prove.
played well. They shut
So
them down.
they're going to have, and it's a different defense than last year. So Harlingen is going to see a different defense than they saw last year.
Yeah.
Now, the one thing I think we're going to see is that last year, Brandon Garza was the inexperienced quarterback coming into that game.
Yeah.
First year starting.
Yeah.
This year, he's the experienced one, and Lance Madden will be the inexperienced.
This is true. So the tables have turned there. I'll tell you what, man. Watching Brandon Garza in the first half against Memorial was unbelievable. I mean, he, as Bill Walton would say, unbelievable, because he just was picking them apart. It didn't matter. It was a man, a zone. They tried to blitz. It didn't matter. He was just throwing it. It was almost like he had a 50-foot-long arm, and he would just place it into the arms of the receivers. Of course, they made some good catches. Gallegos made one up top. They just decimated that team. So the way they won, 58-20, 559 yards, that worries me when I'm talking about Sharyland's chances. And I'm not discounting the Rattlers at all. They're 11-0. They were undefeated 2 years in a row. It's one of the top programs in South Texas. So. But I just feel right now that they're going to have to get some things go their way, or they might lose.
Yeah, and this is one of those games. If it's about bragging rights, because Harlingen does not want to lose to Sharyland again. If they do, it's almost like they're passing the torch.
I'm telling you, man.
And that's the last thing I think Coach Gomez and his team want to do.
Each coach is going to use that as motivation because Ron and Coach Adame is probably going to tell them. They think they're going to come in because we beat them last year, this and that. So it's like the chess game of psychology. It's a great thing. It's going to be a fun week. So what else about that game stands out? You say both teams can run, but neither one runs in a traditional way, do they?
No, they don't. They don't have a go-to running back like, say, South
like an
or
old-fashioned,
Edinburgh North.
Yeah, right.
They don't have that. What they have are a collection of guys that you run that speed option, and the quarterbacks run.
Yeah.
And so that's one thing you're see is Madden's going to run. So will Brandon Garza. For as big as he is,
yeah,
he
man.
runs.
Look, I mean, he's a thickly built guy, but he'll get out of the pocket in a hurry. I'll tell you what else I like about him. He can get out of trouble, and he can throw on the run and complete passes. He made one crazy escape, and then he threw long down the sidelines to Brandon Vasquez and was just out of bounds. But it was an amazing throw. So Sharyland, here's the deal. Which of those teams will be able to spread the field, and which defense will stop the team from spreading the field? That's the game right here, okay? You had it right. There'll be a lot of points, but I don't think there'll be that many. What I think is that which defense will assert its will.
Yeah.
Because they both like to spread the field and get out and kind of slice you and dice you. So who's going to not allow that to happen, and how? Those are the eternal questions right now this week, and we don't know the answers. Really.
Yeah, and there's one guy I want to see is Christian Martinez, because you're going to see him, and that's one thing Harlingen doesn't have. They don't have a big, huge.
No, they don't have a Daniel Martinez at safety like they did back 3 or 4 years ago. Remember that kid, number 7? They have a smallish defense. They're all pretty strong and stocky. I was impressed by the speed of that defense. I know North is fast. North is probably more rugged than Harlingen on defense. But those littler guys, man, I mean, Felix Reyna, 6, he'll pop you, man. He will hurt you. That's the thing. They have a hurt you defense. Their defensive line is amazing. I love Ray Moreno. And we wanted to clarify something that we put on the website. I, of course, say we when I made a mistake. Chris Munhia has had a pretty good season at defensive lineman. 36. He was all over the place against Memorial. We miscalled him in the article on the website, and we're going to change that up. But thanks to his group for letting us know about that. Hey, the bottom line is we make a mistake, we'll correct it.
Yeah, and earlier in the year there was somebody else at 36, and we naturally assumed that number was there still.
And hey, listen, things happen. I like that kid. He's a player. 82 didn't even play that defensive end. He's going to be back. So they have a very good defense that's fast. They're going to have to cover because Sharyland, 20, is a huge, tall receiver with hands. I believe it's got. Is it Brandon got us? Also, there's 2.
Yeah.
Hey, man, that guy's 6'1" or 2. Kristen's 6'3" or 4. So in other words, how are those little cats going to be guarding them? I'll tell you what I saw in the Memorial game that gives me an interesting notion. Elijah DeLeon, number 3. He's not very tall, but man, he went up against one of those big kids from Moore. I think it was DJ
Johnson.
and he stole the ball from him. I mean, it was kind of underthrown, but still, he made that play. Of course, on the other hand, if you throw the right ball, a 6'3" kid will make the catch. The 5'9" corner will not make the interception unless he's pulling on him down here or something. You know what I'm saying? So that's going to be an interesting matchup to watch. I feel Sharyland is going to try to come out and run the ball a little bit, both with the quarterback and with Michael Gonzalez and whoever else, Laredo Guerra, I believe his name is. Hey, man, Sharyland is not worried about anything. They're 11-0. They've been undefeated 2 years in a row. If anybody's as good a program in the last 4 or 5, 6 years as Harlingen, then it's Sharyland. And so that's why this game is amazing, because these two programs have built up traditions of greatness, and now we get to see who's going further to the playoffs.
Yeah, and you have to think, this is fuel. The fuel for Sharyland also is that with a loss, they're basically going to be breaking up a team too, because
yeah, this is the last unified Sharyland team. They want to go deep, and if they go deep, and whoever comes out of that game will have either Madison or O'Connor. Every year at this point in time, I make some smart aleck comment. Sorry, we cussed again. I know. Yeah, it won't beat me about Madison. Well, this is not the Madison of old, and then they come down and beat us. Look, both Sharyland and Harlingen have something to prove against Madison. They're 8-3 this year as that team. I think they're going to get past O'Connor, but I'm not so sure either. Madison started big. They beat Steele. We're getting ahead of ourselves. But just keep in mind, the winner is going to take on a team that I believe is beatable. And now, wait a minute. We forgot to say who Edinburgh North and Harlingen South will play. The winner of.
what?
And it's Reagan or Steele, and those are the two best teams in the region. And so that's not a good thing.
Yeah.
Let's concentrate on Friday.
Let's do this week then.
We'll talk about it when we get there. Okay. So now, the rematch weekend is where we're at, but there are also two other 5A teams in action. Los Fresnos have beat Weslaco, and now who do they play? Alexander is ready to do what it does. Then it could be a high-scoring game. And guys, I tell you what, man, who can count against Chavez and Rivera right now? Who knows? You know, Rivera. That's how Buddy Green used to say it. Hey, Brownsfield Rivera. He was from the Bronx, right? It's Rivera. That's okay. It's fine. I knew that. Yeah. All right. Now let's go to Los Fresnos, because there's a team that, okay, Clint Finley, the coach, has done a great job down there. They finally got a playoff win. That monkey's off their back. Now they beat Weslaco, and they've got an interesting game against United.
Yeah, they do. Now, that's a tough game because United ran the ball all over.
Threw the ball, he says, 447 yards in the first half. That is impossible. And so I predict firmly here on TV or on the web, wherever we are in cyberspace, it won't happen again.
No.
There's no way. If he throws for 447 more yards, I'll walk to Laredo and shake his hand. So, now, United's on a roll. It's an experienced playoff team. It's had some quality losses. They won the district. Well, what does Los Fresnos have to do?
Well, I think what they're going to have a superstar effort on defense. But Brandon Colon came out of his shell.
Hey, the last couple of games, he's been starting to say, hey, what about me for a player of the year? I mean, he's done some great things, man, which we knew he could.
Mm-hmm. And you know, I think a lot of teams this year have been kind of, keying their game plan around him.
Yeah.
But I think now he's just like, basically, let's just play. You know, and I
He
think
must not want to hoop yet. He wants to play more football.
Yeah, and look, it's going to be hard for them to match up with somebody that's 6'5". Now, having said that, they're going to have to score with them. And that means that he's going to have a superstar effort. They have a running game. They have a good quarterback. You love their quarterback.
Oh, man, I couldn't agree with you more. Los Fresnos has the pace and the skill to hang with United. What you don't want to do is skip a beat, because they're going to keep on going, man. They'll put 50 points up on you. Yeah, Javi Cruz, man, I mean, in my estimation, 237 yards rushing last week, 185 passing. He is amazing. Now, here's the debit there, or the question I have. The other guys only rushed for 11 yards total. I assume that's because that's what Weslaco threw at them, right? Mm-hmm. You take what they give you, etc. But they got to get Cox involved. They got to get some other backs involved. There's other crews, Eli, and they will, I believe. I mean, I'm not telling them something they don't know. Give me a break. I feel good about Los Fresno's chances because they're a team that has quick pace. Now, let me tell you a story. Way back, son, back in 2005, Los Fresnos played United in the second round. They lost 29-24. I was at the game. It was a week after they beat Weslaco, 44-41. So what we're talking about here is history repeating itself. And I mentioned that as an asterisk and a side. It means absolutely nothing to the game that we're going to have here. Mm-hmm. So you think Los Fresnos can hang with them? I think they can.
I think they can.
I think they're about an 8 or 9 point underdog. But you know what? Los Fresnos, kind of like Gruyo, we're going to talk about them in a minute. They have a chance to really prove something because, see, Los Fresnos hadn't been this far in the playoffs since 08. You know, they had 6, 7, 8, 3 deep, 3 years in a row, one of the best teams in Valley history. They want to do that again. They want to show that they have the talent to make that happen. And I think they have a decent chance. I think they're probably, like I say, an underdog. But boy, I would like to see them take those guys out.
So would I. I'd like to see a Brandon Colon field day.
Well, Brandon Colon is the same guy as Christian Martinez, is the same guy as C.J. Gallegos. We got a bunch of big, tall, good receivers. The best of them all might be Diego Garcia. And we're going to talk more about 4A as we go along. Now, we've reached the end of the first segment. I can tell because my jaw hurts from talking so much. What are we going to do here now?
You know what? Let's key to our Coach of the Week, because it's a great feeling to be able to talk about this coach who, I don't want to say got hosed from his last job,
Well,
but we got hosed.
ran into some interesting
Yeah.
situations in Brownsville politics.
Yeah, and now he's come back full circle into where he was with Hannah when he left.
Tom Chavez is a Coach of the Week, and if there's a guy who's deserving more, and his team deserving of accolades more, I'm not quite sure who it is. Let's see what he has to say. The Raider.
Was this victory a surprise for you guys?
Well, no, not really. It's not a surprise. It's just something that we had worked for, and just like I was telling the boys, I mean, we haven't made the playoffs in a long time. Rivera hasn't made the playoffs in a long time, but we just didn't want to. Our deal last week was don't be satisfied to be in the playoffs, because I think that's the biggest mistake that a team that hasn't been in the playoffs can make. So we emphasize that, and you know, we've been playing each week. We've been playing. We're getting better and better. So we just wanted to continue what we're doing here in practice, and we want to continue what we've done in the last couple of games that got us here.
Who's coming up next for you guys?
We got Laredo Alexander, and we're playing Friday night at 7:30 at the La Jolla Coyote Stadium. So we're looking forward to that. I know Laredo's a very good team. They're a passing team. They got some weapons. They got a lot of seniors. But this is another challenge for us. So we'll see where we're at now. We're going to keep the same routine that we have been throughout the year, and just keep on getting better. We just want to keep on getting better every week.
The sun shines bright as it moves across my face. I feel the light and everything is in its place. Oh, I woke up feeling great. Today was made for me, and life is good the way it should, the way it was meant to be. And it's a beautiful day. It's a beautiful day. It's a beautiful day. It's a beautiful day.
Well, we're in the 4As now, and it's going to get a little difficult to talk at length because we had a tough week, man. The Coastal Bend thing, I'll tell you what, those teams from Corpus, we battle them every year, and this year it wasn't our best performance in some ways.
Yeah, and you know what? A lot of the 4A guys, the fans that are on the forums, on the website.
4A forum fans.
Yeah, they get on there and they talk about this, that 5As are lucky because they get to play local talent.
It's harder
Now-
to be sub-5s. A lot of times in 4A, you got to play a tough team
And
right
you're
off the
traveling.
bat.
You're traveling right away.
Yeah, man.
So-
you really test the mettle of your team. It's been that way for a while. I mean, I remember when Ed Couch had some of the best basketball teams in South Texas with Coach Capello, and they would play at West Oso like quick. It's like, God dang it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You could beat 8, 9 other teams in the bracket. Nonetheless, let's start out with the congratulations for the 1-4A team that is still surviving. First time in 15 years, Rio Grande has won a playoff game, and that's pretty slick.
Yeah, and then they went 0-3 at the beginning of the year, and everybody was like, "Oh my God!"
1-9 last year.
Yeah.
They had a good year 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Then they went 1-9. This year we didn't know where they were going to go. Well, you know what? They made the playoffs and they got that win. That's pretty cool, man. Boy, what a wild game. They got out to a huge lead. Then had to hold on at the end. Costello had a touchdown.
Yeah.
Hey, I've been saying Noe Gonzalez all year, man. He always has good numbers. He's a good-sized kid for 4A. So Rio is moving on now. 1998, of course, the coach next door in Gruya, Abel Gonzalez, was the quarterback of the Rio team that went 3 deep. And you need to look up that story that I tell relatively well in border ball one of these days, right? Anyway, so now where does Rio go from here?
Rio's playing. Who is the team?
Harlandale.
Harland.
Not Harlingen, not Arlington, but Harlandale. The Indians, one of the teams still named Indians, I guess. 9-2. They in the playoffs about every other year up there in San Antonio. It's not a bad group. I wouldn't say they're too scary. Is Rio like Rivera, or did they have a better run of it against Harlingen?
I think they have a better run of it.
Yeah, I think so too.
Because I think that they, they found their, I use the word all the time, moxie.
Yeah, I
throughout the
love
season.
Moxie. With an IE.
Yeah,
It's a good one.
they've learned to, they've adapted throughout the year. I mean, because it's not this typical Coach Longoria team that just goes pass. They run a nice their own little speed option.
Yeah, they do. Defensively, I don't think Rio has a lot of size in the back seven, more in the back. But you know what? Hey, here they are. I tend to discount things sometimes that we say after I say them. For instance, I'm thinking, nobody cares about 1998, even though it's fun to talk about Abel. It's a good thing. Here they are in the moment. Those kids weren't even barely born, right? So it's a fun thing for their parents to say, we remember Mijo, But here they are playing their game, and they can come out and beat these guys. Man, I'm telling you, Harlandale is not that great a team.
Yeah.
They used to run into Flower Bluff every year in the playoffs. That was who they lost to 3 times. So, they're probably going to be happy to see Rio because they're going to look and see the record at 5-6. Don't be surprised if that group puts on a good show. I really like to see that. Now, there won't be any other 4A teams because, as we thought, it was going to be tough. Mercedes went down to Flower Bluff, and boy, Flower Bluff and PLC is going to be some kind of game. Meanwhile, Cal Allen will play Alice because Alice was taking out the Jackets 28-27 at home. We'll get there in a minute. Mission Veterans had a very slow start. I think they could have beaten Martin. They came all the way back to 3, but they just, they didn't have any more arrows in the quiver. They went down 40-37. 1 out of 4, Jake. Are you disappointed? Not in the teams, but in the finishes.
Well, look, you were at the Ed Couch game. You got to see, they were tired. And I think, you kind of thought that they probably should have maybe went for 2.
Oh, you know what? I don't know. You're trying to set me up. What's up, man? I like Monty Solari. You got to be kidding.
Yeah.
Well, I think, I put it this way. I thought so at the time to an extent. In hindsight, though, that's a media thing. I can say, roll the dice, man. What do you got to lose? What do you got to lose? A by-district game at home? You almost have to kick the point and just hope that your defense can do something. But they were tired. I'll tell you what happened to Ed Couch. The same thing that happened to Edinburgh North against Saraland. On the field too much. They couldn't run the ball. Ed Couch had 52 yards. That Alice defense was better than I thought it was going to be.
Was it?
That 75 guy looked like Deacon Jones out there, man. The guy was everywhere. Big old burly guy. And he was running, man. He was popping people.
Yeah.
Some people will say, well, they missed the back that they had that didn't play. I think they did to an extent, but there were no holes. Right? Here's the thing. They put Olvera, which is a big old, strong, tough kid, on defense now, 68, and he's a great player there. I was impressed by a bunch of kids on that Couch's team, and they overcame so many obstacles, Jake. I mean, they didn't play well, but they made a couple of big plays. Noe Gonzalez came in, and they sparked the team. The thing is, they didn't leave themselves any margin for error, okay? So it was amazing the things they came back from. So Ed Couch scores with 3 seconds left to tie it up. It's like an amazing, right? But they have a penalty on the kickoff that puts them at the 40 for overtime. And I didn't know that you do that.
Yeah,
I didn't know.
yeah.
I thought that once the game was over, then you set the clock over and play.
Yeah.
But they got penalized. They started from the 40, and then on 4th and 5, Diego Garcia makes an unbelievable catch. And it's a great throw. He just went up, and the guy was right there, the ball was right there, and he just took it from him, man. He put his body on him, and he's just and then fell, and he's such a great player. He ran a kickoff back for touchdown, and got another touchdown call back. So the long story I'm going to make longer here is that the Ed Couch did everything they could to win that game, but at the end of the day, they ran out of miracles, man. 28-27. The last time they lost in the first round of the playoffs was 0-4 to Cal Allen. The same exact score, and when they missed an extra point. And I hate it for those kids in that program because they battle like their lives depended on it, and I thought they were going to pull it off, man.
Yeah. I was watching the updates as I was supposed to be coaching at the time, but I was watching the updates, and I was amazed. I mean, we talked about it last week, though. We said if anybody had the toughest game, especially for a first seed,
Alice passed the ball, man. Those scallywags were 12 out of 13. I was want to rip what hair I have left out of my head, man. I couldn't believe it. That kid Jaramillo for Alice. He's a skinny-looking guy. I'll tell you what. They passed the ball, and they didn't go deep. They just passed the ball 8 or 9 yards here. You know what they did, and this is why they won. First, they kept the ball forever. But second of all, they got 2nd and longs. They turned them into 3rd and 4s. 6 or 8 times, they completed a short pass and got something, and then they made the first down. Their makeability factor was incredible, as opposed to facing 2nd and 19 and throw the bomb for incomplete, then 3rd and 19. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
No, I thought Alex called a good game. They played a good game. hey man, we're not used to Ed Couch losing. I mean, that's our preseason number one.
Yeah.
But they're out, and it's just a shame. But you know what? Hey, they take their lumps like everybody else, and they're going to be back next year. I love their coach.
Yes.
That guy is intense, but you can tell he cares about the kids. I mean, he's got that balance between being kind of a tough guy, which he is. He's a great football player, and yet I really feel like he's gentle in that he understands his kids' psyche. So I think there's good things to come from that program for years. They're gonna bite on this one for a while, man, and so will I.
Yeah.
So will I. It's too bad. Now, let's talk 3A. 3A's got 2 teams left. One we've kind of mentioned is Gruya. They've got a game against Ingleside that I think is winnable, but it worries me too.
Yeah. Look, I like Gruya. I would tell you what, they're a
Solid
reflection
team,
of their
man.
team. They have a great quarterback. And when we talk about reflections of his
Yeah,
coach,
man.
He's an extension of Abel.
Yeah.
You get him out there, he finds the holes. He likes to run.
Yeah, and they got some flyers too. They got some speed. I like Nathan Salinas, I think is the guy's name. There's a couple of those guys out there that can go all the way. Ingleside now has probably the best quarterback that a Valley team has faced on that level this year. This kid's name is Barajas. He's a 3-year guy. He's got about 9,000 yards. So, I mean,
Only?
Yeah, well, yeah, 3 seasons.
Yeah.
Yeah, in 1 season. So he's good, and they're tough. They're 7-3, but their losses are to really good teams. To Cuero by a couple of points, Orange Grove by 5, and even they played Refugio and only lost by 12.
Really?
I mean, that team scored 81 points in the playoffs the other night. So, I mean, Ingleside's good. It's an uphill struggle. I think Gruya can hang in there, and they're going to have to bring it. They're going to have to score some. Ingleside's tough. The Mustangs.
Where do you put this as far as the spread then?
I'd say that 5 or 6 on Ingleside. I think they're probably a little bit favored. And here's the thing about Ingleside.
Touchdowns or? I'm
It's
just kidding. I'm just kidding. Abel.
Does in Spanish count? Here's the deal. Gruya is very new to the mix. They want to make a name for themselves right now. They got to win a playoff game at this level. Ingleside's been in the playoffs 10 years in a row. They average like 8.6 wins a season. In other words, they're there. They're not, Cal Allen. I kind of call them like Cal Allen or Flower Bluff, but the lesser Grebe version of them. And they're pretty good. I mean, they're always pretty good. So, but it can be done. I'd love to see it done. One, because Valley against them other guys. But 2, because, a program like that, this is a signature win. Then that says, hey, man, we're going 3 deep in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Cousin, what you think of them apples? You know what I mean? So it can happen.
Yeah, it's nice to see 2 Rio schools.
Yeah, well,
Stark
Stark County's in the house.
Yeah.
Like I said today, I'm proud of those guys, man. They take a rap sometimes for this and for that. That's a great football season, and that system and those people need to be excited, man. That's awesome. Let's see if they can keep it going.
Yeah.
All right, now, La Villa is back in action. I'm making an end run, jet sweeping around PI. Yeah.
Okay.
La Villa is in. They got Flatonia. Flatonia ended up beating Ozona 31-7. I called them Ozuna, and I still may do it again. I was looking at La Villa's record, man, the last 8 or 10 years. That's a pretty successful franchise, man.
Yeah, it is. And think about how many different coaches they've had.
How many different systems, too. Now they run the ball all the time. They used to be A.J. Gottison, and he'd throw the ball like the electric football quarterback. He was amazing, right? So now they run the ball, which means that you haven't heard as much about Robert Serna of the Serna family. He's been playing an amazing bit of defense, from what I understand. Hey, man, the Cardinals are in their own way experienced in the playoffs the last 8 or 10 years.
Yeah, and they killed it last week. No turnovers, no touchdowns, but still, they had that bye. They had a bye.
This guy's kind of funny. You have to listen to him. He's really clever.
The bye does so much for him because, a lot of people don't like the byes.
Yeah.
But look, at least they got a chance to get
ready.
healthy.
Maybe they lifted some, and then they're itching to play. I think that's the point. Is that, man, they want to get with it. Everyone else is in the paper and on the websites and video. They're out of the mix. I don't think Flatonia is incredible. It's had some teams in the past that were that good, but it's a winnable game. So Santa Maria goes out, Santa Rosa goes out, and Raymondville goes out, and so does Hidalgo. St. Joe also, look, they gave up too many points this year. They had some good defensive players, but they just, their pace was not matched by the pace of their defense. Heck of a season, though.
Yeah.
I really feel like that Guerra kid down there, Guerra, Gutierrez, all those guys, they had a fine offensive season. So,
and thank you to Coach Tino Villarreal for giving us the
you got your name right.
Too.
It's cool.
Yeah.
Now, that leaves us with 1. Now, shall we take a break here?
Yeah, you know what? We've got something really interesting. Before we talk about PI,
okay.
we've got a little post-game speech from Coach Mike Uribe after his team's loss.
Mercedes, keep in mind, has been through the challenges, had a pretty dang good season. They ran up against a Flower Bluff team that's, it's hard to beat.
Flower Bluff.
Yeah, exactly, man, the Hornets. But, Michael is one of the great young coaches here in the Valley, and there's about a handful of them that we're going to be talking about him for years. And so, yeah, I really am always interested in how his approach is to his kids. So let's check it out.
out, guys, that in this business, in this sport, you really can never just enjoy any successes because you got the next week to prepare for it. And you got to put in the work because there's always someone else out there that you got to beat and someone out there trying to beat you. Now, like I told you, now that the season's over, now we can go back and reflect and look at how hard you guys fought all year. Was this season perfect? No. Did we play perfect? No. But did you guys overcome so many obstacles this year? Was there moments where people, I don't want to say doubted you, but maybe thought that the obstacles were too hard for you guys to overcome? And you guys found ways to overcome it. You guys were district runners-up. You guys made the playoffs. People didn't expect you to be in the playoffs. People didn't expect you to have a chance to be close to the top of the standing. You guys were district runners-up by yourself. You guys fought hard all year. You never gave up. You put in the work, you put in the sacrifice. And I hope the lessons you learned here, you can carry the rest of your life. That we don't quit.
Well, as we said, and we've been saying all along, it's playoff time. It's getting kind of tricky, man, because the number of teams starts dwindling. Next week, I hope we have a couple. We're guaranteed a couple of 5As because we play each other to go to the third round. But we're not guaranteed anything else down that schedule, Jake. And I'll tell you what, every team has a tough muster coming up. And I will include Port Isabel in that because all weekend, it is a rematch. I've been thinking to myself, have I seen this somewhere before? They've played 7 times in the playoffs, okay? PI is 4-3. And again, this is history. It doesn't add up to this year. But my point is that Orange Grove is a pretty tough team, and anybody who doesn't think so needs to go back and look at the marks on the offensive, the size they have. Orange Grove is a scary team. PI cannot sleep on those guys or they might get upset. That's what I'm going to say first.
And the one thing is, you can't have a letdown game. There are no letdown games. And the thing about PI is they played well all year. And there's always that one game. I mean, I remember
McAllen against Rivetta had a letdown game, and that's not to take it away from Rivetta. They earned it, but McAllen did not play well.
Yeah, I mean, when I was a basketball coach, I remember Edinburgh when we were really good. We had a letdown game against PSA Memorial, all teams.
Oh, really?
No offense to PSA Memorial, but
at that time, they were not competitive.
But there's always a game that
human nature. 17-year-olds, pressure. My point is this: if I was going to have a team that avoided that, I'd like the coach to be, among others, Monty Stumbaugh. Because he's been around, he's cool, he's regular, he's not going to let those kids get too high. He's always trying to downplay stuff in a positive way. And look, let's face it, they got some veterans on that team that I think would probably throw somebody in the ocean if they started getting cocky.
Yeah.
I mean, Guillard and Ramirez and some of those cats, they're not going to stand.
Montelongo.
Yeah, I know. They're not going to stand for that type of stuff. They have to guard against it because I think Orange Grove is going to be a competitive game. I really feel like it's a tough second round game.
Yeah. Now, if I had to put leadership on any quarterback in the Valley to run a team and make sure that the ship is right.
Yeah, exactly.
I want Martinez.
Martinez had 159 yards, 157 yards rushing. Only threw twice. That will change. But you're right, man, because he just wins the games. And I don't mean by himself, but I mean he. If you're talking about adequate or serviceable quarterback play, he's here and then here and then here. And he doesn't have to do it with a ton of numbers. It's what he does, when he does it, and the way he does it. It almost sounds like a jazz song. It ain't what you do, it's the way how to do it. Remember that song?
Yeah, no.
No, it was a good one. Yeah, and it was better when someone else sang it. That's right. Love him, love that team. Orange Grove is tough. PI limited Raymondville to 63 rushing yards, and that was a phenomenal performance because Raymondville had run the ball well all year, man, with Valladares and Rosales and the quarterback. So a nice 42-13 win in by-district. PI against Orange Grove. I'm not going to look ahead here too much. I will tell you this. You look at Orange Grove, they're 10-1, and the only team they lost to is Sinton. And Sinton, of course, is a pretty solid program that we've played for many, many years. They did manage to beat that Orange Grove Ingleside, the team that we're talking about that's playing Gruya. So now you start to see the stories intertwined. If PI is not complacent, I feel that they should be able to win that game. I feel like it will be tough. Then they'll get probably Lavernia. Lavernia plays Wharton, and in the near distant future, I can see a rematch with Novato coming down the pike. Wouldn't that be interesting?
Wow. I think this, out of all the teams, this is the most experienced team. This is the most determined.
And they're supposed to be here, and they're supposed to keep going. That can be pressure, but it can also be motivation. Like, hey, man, you don't want to lose in the second round. This is PI we're talking about. We're the Silver Tarpons, they call them sometimes. I like that, right? Yeah, it's like the Silver Beetles.
And you have to think, Orange Grove's looking across the field and going, man,
It's
all
PI
those kids were there last year.
Yeah.
It's Guillard again.
And he's even bigger and meaner. look, the two of the 4 times that PI has beaten Orange Grove in the playoffs, they've gone on to go to the state semifinals. 94 and 2003, they popped Orange Grove along the way, and so maybe it's coincidence, maybe it's not. Now in 06 and then 2011, Orange Grove beat them. So they feel like, I think they want to try to unseat Port Isabel here at this point. I feel like they have a good-sized team who might be able to be competitive, as I say, but if PI plays the way it can play, it's going to keep going.
Yeah, I think so too.
So what do these teams, what do these teams have to do to win in the playoffs? I would say the most important thing is avoid turnover.
Yeah, you can't give any free points.
Turnovers and penalties, okay? Why McAllen went down the tube. Los Fresnos had 4 turnovers and 13 penalties. North had 9 penalties. I believe they had 3 turnovers. You can't do that at the next level, or you will get whipped, man. There's no way you can give away free points like that.
Yeah, especially at this level, the other teams, they're doing the same thing you are.
Yeah, and
really.
just as good. So it then becomes an execution thing. I was talking to Harlingen coaches after the game, and they felt like their kids did a pretty good job of executing the game plan. So, and I think Sherryland did the same thing. They dealt with what South was giving them, United South, and they found a way to slice and dice. It was 35-0 after 3 quarters. So we're looking at some of the best games in recent Valley football history, and who knows, maybe we'll have a team that'll go 4 deep. I know we're going to have at least two that will go 3 deep.
Yeah, and I'm sitting next to one of the smartest guys in TV, well, not TV anymore, I guess. Web print.
One of the biggest buffoons in the history of the world.
Look, if you haven't seen, buy his book, Border Ball. Find out everything this guy knows, because you pretty much could be the South Texas scholar athlete.
Can you imagine? Yes. Well, I try very hard to do a good job. And I need to bring my glasses and put them on, man. Hey, it's been a fun playoffs. I appreciate that, by the way, and that was a freebie, unfortunately.
The link's right here.
Yeah. Look, here's the thing. We're going to be out at the games. Here's the only problem. It's a problem because Harlingen plays at the same time as Edinburgh North. I'm going to try to find a way to be at both, but I'm not going to be able to do that. Yeah. So am I going to flip a coin or what?
All right. This is a little shout out to Coach Gomez, Coach Creeders. Maybe you want to change that to Saturday.
Can you put that on Sunday at 9 out in Ben Bolt? Hey, are we going to go see PI in Kingsville on Saturday?
I think so. I think we have to. It's one of those games that, PI is it's a special team.
It is, and it's a 1 p.m. start, which means there are going to be some pretty good pictures.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so is there anything else we need to get accomplished? We can talk about our sponsors.
Yeah, you know what? We do mention South Texas Scholar Athlete. Let's go to that real quick.
It's not me.
Yeah, let's go to this real quick. We have our South Texas Scholar Athlete. Take it away.
Gilbert Bermea is ranked number 23 out of 154 students in his senior class. That puts him in the top 5%. He is taking AP Calculus, AP Government, AP English, and 3 engineering classes. He likes taking leadership roles, and one day he would like to be a hospital administrator.
So I'm the parliamentarian of National Honor Society and the president of my senior class. So I like the leadership roles. I like to believe that I do a pretty good job at it, and I like to facilitate things and be in charge of them, make sure that they go smoothly and they go correctly.
It's definitely priceless. It's definitely priceless with a kid like that. You don't have to even. Sometimes I even tell him once. He figures things out based on what we do from previous weeks, but. He's not just a great football player, but he's just a great person. He's well-rounded.
Football has taught me a lot of things like discipline, how to step up and be a leader, and how to kind of like coordinate your time and how to use it wisely. Rather than going home after school, staying for an extra 2 hours and working out and putting that extra hard work in, and that carries over to school as well, because you got to put the extra hard work in if you want to do well in school also.
Bermea admits it's not easy juggling a demanding academic schedule and playing football.
You have to definitely have time for everything. You've got to be really open with your time. You got to be flexible as well. If it requires coming in the morning to workouts because you can after school because you got a big test tomorrow, those are the kind of things that you got to do.
Gilbert Bermea, the South Texas College Scholar Athlete of the Week.
Let's do a little record keeping, Jake, before we finish up this edition of the show. I've had fun. I hope you have. I'm actually, though, starting to draw a tiny amount of sweat because it's kind of hot in here. Maybe it's just getting thick and hot in the playoffs. Who knows?
Or it's me.
Yeah. You wanted to give us a little interesting note so that you can have some people know what's going on in social media or cyberspace or whatever it is.
Yeah, if you go to our Twitter, there's a nice question we posed today, or I posed today, which is Sunday. You'll see this on Tuesday, so we'll be a couple days behind.
You'll be all over it like a pair of pants.
But yeah, there's a question. I was talking to some coaches in 32-5A, 35A, and not that we're picking on 31-5A, but did you know 31-5A is 1-7 against 32-5A?
The sweep this year is amazing with Rivetta's upset, man. God.
Yeah, and here's the thing. A lot of people in 31-5A, and I'm not going to mention names, there's some coaches that Carlos were talking to, they're just like, well, yeah, we beat the heck out of each other all year, and we have to take every game serious, and that's why this happens. I'm sitting there going, I understand that, but at the same time, I got to coach in the old 31-5A with Harlingen, PSJ, and the Edinburghs.
Yeah,
this is back when there wasn't a fourth school, and the talent was still pretty much locked up. And look, if the old 31-5A could have 4 teams go 3 rounds deep,
right,
1-7. For a 31-5A team that they call the meat grinder, it shouldn't be that way.
It surprises me. I really thought that it was going to be a little more even than that. But the thing is, 32 may not be top to bottom as quality. Although you can argue Hannah and Veterans and those guys are pretty solid teams. They've got a couple of really good teams. Football City, I call Harlingen, and Los Fresnos is still going too. So, me, I'm a conciliator, man. I'm a peacemaker. Rather than get on that bandwagon, I'll just say that congratulations to 32 for pulling off a sweep after a 3-1. That's something else. Now, all the guys that helped make that happen, I want to know who the best players are. So this is our segue into the end of the show where we ask you, again, to keep those cards and letters and emails coming about who you think should be on the All-Valley team, offense, defense. I think I found a punter. I'm not going to tell you who it is, but I finally decided I think I found a punter. So that's good, but I need another punter. So we're going to need.
And we're still looking for linemen.
Yeah, we're looking for linemen because, put it this way. There's a couple of guys for Gruya I think have had great years. I want to find out which one of those guys has more pancake blocks. So who knows? Bottom line is we want everybody to be recognized for the neat things that they do, the work they put in, the achievements they have accomplished, right? So send those calls in if you want to call him. It's and will that do it?
Yeah. Look, you have stats, coaches, if you're watching too. Jake at 956sports.com.
Jake at 956sports.com. We're going to put that across the order before midnight tonight.
Yeah, like an infomercial.
Steve Ginsu, yes. Okay. The show, it's the best thing in the world because we get to go to football games and then talk to you about it. Check out all the action on the website. We got cheerleader pictures going up. We got stories from last week. We'll have some advances. We got a bunch of guys out taking pictures, doing videos. Hey, man, if you like high school football and if you like the Valley and you live here, even if you don't live here, this is where you need to be.
Yeah, and real quick, last week I edit the videos, and I'm sorry. A lot of you guys, this is the reason I go to church on Sundays.
So apologize, you sinner.
Yeah, I have a foul mouth.
What about me?
Huh? Well,
I'm not unfoul, but the thing is,
yeah. Anyways, sorry, it won't happen again.
But I said one word today, didn't I? Oh, we're going to bleep it. We're going to bleep it. That's okay. Hey, Greg Selber, Jake Berry, the show. See you at the ball games. All right. Perfect.
Hey, I'll be honest with you.